So I want to explain a story about a whistleblower complaint that came out yesterday. It's a guy by the name of Chuck Borges, who's the chief data officer for Social Security.
The Government Accountability Project Whistleblower Protection Group submitted a report on Borges' behalf to the federal government's Office of Special Counsel and congressional committees.
The reporting on it has missed a really critical element. The reporting on it generally says that
DOGE, or the Department of Government Efficiency, uploaded a copy of all federal Social Security numbers to an unsecured server back in June.
DOGE boys at Social Security.
I dropped out of Harvard and came here to serve my country. And it's been unfortunate to see, lost friendships. Most of campus hates me now.
Have moved all Social Security data onto an Amazon server in an insecure way. But the background to that is far more important. It starts in March when DOGE was first given access to Social Security data.
Since President Trump re-entered the Oval Office, billionaire Elon Musk and his DOGE team have been sweeping through federal agencies, accessing sensitive data.
As Borges describes, at that point, the way in which DOGE was accessing Social Security data was insecure. They were using PIN access from individual devices as opposed to individual people. So you wouldn't know what people were doing. And in a lawsuit brought by AFSCME, a judge imposed a temporary restraining order and then a preliminary injunction preventing DOGE from accessing that data. Immediately after she did that in March, DOGE, for about a week or so, frantically accessed the data anyway. And the whistleblower notes that this may expose those people to hacking charges because there was a judicial order against accessing that data. And then from March until June, DOGE had no access because this preliminary injunction was in place. On June 6th, the Supreme Court said,
this afternoon, justices decided to allow members of the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, to access Social Security systems that contain personal information on millions of Americans. That includes school records, salary details, and medical information.
Let them have access now, and we'll do the litigation later.
We're talking about Social Security numbers, medical records, tax and banking information. Once that data is out there, is there any way to wrangle it back?
No. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, as she has been doing, wrote a scathing dissent, stepping back to take a bird's eye view of the stay request before us. The government's failure to demonstrate harm, meaning Supreme Court let DOGE access this data, even though the government provided no real explanation why they needed it. The government's failure to demonstrate harm should mean that the general equity balance tips decisively against granting a stay. On the one hand, there was a repository of millions of Americans' legally protected, highly sensitive information that, if improperly handled or disseminated, risks causing significant harm, as Congress has already recognized, meaning there are laws preventing this. On the other, there is the government's desire to ditch the usual protocols for accessing that data before the courts even have determined whether DOGE's access is lawful. In the first bucket, there is the state of federal law, which enshrines privacy protections, and the president's constitutional obligation to faithfully execute the laws Congress has passed. This makes it not at all clear that it is in the public's interest for the Social Security Administration to give DOGE staffers unfettered access to all Americans' non-anonymized data before its entitlement to such access has been established, especially when the Social Security Administration's own employees have long been subject to restrictions meant to protect the American people. So back on June 6th, KBJ warned us, you shouldn't give these people all this unfettered access. The bulk of the whistleblower complaint tells us what happened after that. And what happened after that is DOGE made a replica. They basically copied all Social Security data from all Americans, hundreds of millions of Americans.
DOGE also pulled from the Social Security Administration to create a database Immigration and Customs Enforcement could use to identify and deport undocumented migrants.
They moved it to an Amazon server. And importantly, because this whistleblower complaint is coming from Borges, the guy whose job it is to make sure that data is accessed only in a secure way, they're not telling him what they're doing. They're not auditing access to the data. Earlier, they had write access to the data, meaning they could change our Social Security data if they wanted to. Then, after this happened,
we finally asked the one question on our mind. Who's big balls?
It's big.
Ed Cosentine, he goes by Big Balls.
What does Big Balls do?
Right now I'm working on some payment computer stuff.
He's the guy
I have to say that somebody from DOGE was very badly hurt last night.
who Trump used as an excuse for the invasion of D.C. by National Guard.
We're going to have to federalize and run it.
He's that punk little 19-year-old boy.
Why do they call you Big Balls?
I just said it as my LinkedIn username.
Okay.
Well, people on LinkedIn take themselves like super seriously, and they're pretty adverse to risk. And I was like, well, I want to be neither of those things. So I said it, and honestly, I didn't even think anyone would notice.
Yeah.
So what do you
LinkedIn
do?
is so cringe.
Who, by the way, has ties to criminal hackers. And in fact, one of his grandparents was a Russian double agent. This guy should and probably never has been able to pass a security clearance after John Roberts and his Republican colleagues give DOGE access to unfettered Social Security data. Social Security brings in this guy with ties to criminal hackers, and they give him unfettered access to this data as well. And so, yes, the story is
Chuck Borges claims that all the information needed to get a Social Security card is now in a, quote, vulnerable cloud environment. And over 300 million Americans are at risk of identity fraud.
all of our Social Security data is on an insecure platform. But the important story, too, is that the Republicans on the Supreme Court gave that to them. The Republicans on the Supreme Court ignored rules protecting our privacy and gave people like Big Balls access to our Social Security data. And that is the substance of this complaint.
What does Big Balls do?